And the way that we contain our attention, if you will, and those are rough words right now, but I actually get a lot of usefulness from the image of the electromagnetic field that our body produces. So it's a sense of self that goes a little bit beyond our skin. And I actually like the arm's distance. Like that's actually a pretty perfect image, distance, and space into which our feeling, our sensing enlivens, right? Where just the very nature of our awakeness enlivens this space. It enlivens our cells. Our cells remember, gosh, this awake being. So all this just to get us situated somewhere on our seat, roughly an arm's distance all around. Just to give us some containment or some parameters from which to begin. Having these parameters actually lets us study more perfectly all of the internal movements, tumultuousness, subconscious, all of the erratic or unpredictability of what is really our responsibility, our energetic responsibility, our emotional hygiene and emotional responsibility. So I just want to keep situating us in and around our bodily self so that as we give ourselves these parameters for this limited amount of time, we can more perfectly study all of these motions, movements, preoccupations, pulls, distractions, erratic, conditioned tendencies, right? This is all really good stuff. So we're breathing with all of that. We're rejecting none of it. I feel irritable, I feel fidgety, awesome. Now that's in the practice. I feel calm, I feel at home, great. That is in the practice. Let's start with some rounds of Brahmari. Deep inhalation, keeping the lips gently closed. Use the entire exhalation to feel, produce, and sense sound. we'll do about 3 more. Now, for these next few moments, I want to work with the Brahmari and track the sound just prior to it becoming a vocal registry. It's a little bit like creating every impetus to create sound, but without it necessarily going through the vocal structure and translating into physical vibration that our ears hear, our physical ears hear. I hope that makes sense. So it's the breath, it's the sourcing, it's the initiation, and it's even the production of that internal sound, again, without it just kind of skirts around the vocal structure, so it's an internalized sound. I hope that makes sense. Let's just do the best that we can. We'll do 3 rounds, internalized Brahmari. Then resume your Ujjayi breath. Isn't that so fascinating how we can attune to the quality of our voice, even as it's still internal and prior to any externalized vocalization. Right? So it's a very deep internal voicing that we can attune to. And you may have even noticed as you were doing those internalized Brahmari, you may have noticed some fluctuations and some motions in the vocal area, some of the muscles and the movement. Okay? So we're going to do a little bit of a front of throat access. The important thing is that your neck feels good. So I'll suggest a couple of ways we can do this. One is just seated upright, letting the hands interlace. Not only interlace under the head, but actually create like a spacer, like a neck long, almost like a neck brace, so that I can relax my head back without there being compression in the neck bones, neck joints. Now the stretch, there's not a whole lot of stretch that goes on in the front, but there's release, there's relax. I also want to just put this suggestion out there. If you have a couple of props around and your neck tolerates a little bit of, extension. So here I'm just putting my shoulder blades on some blocks, and I just happen to have just a nice amount of contour and cushion that lets me tip my head back, and it's perfectly comfortable to me. I'm not going very extreme, but the point here is to relax my head backward and to not feel any compression or weirdness in the neck. So whether you do this upright or seated is perfect. But we'll focus in the front, in the throat structures. So there's the cartilage area that sits in front of it's called the thyroid cartilage. So it's kind of in front of the vocal structure. If you sound, it's the place where the most kind of vibratory, the vibratory epicenter is. And we'll just take several breaths into the interior of the neck bones. And here I'm just playing as if relaxing and releasing the interior of the neck. It's like I'm relaxing from the inside of my spine, between the spine and the vocal structure. And if you use a little bit of sound and a little bit of a fingertip touch to just keep you locating in the throat area, that's wonderful. And maybe you can feel for that gesture of release extending underneath the brain. So from the throat to the brain, to make that pathway, that linear pathway, I go through an opening in the bottom of the skull, the foramen magnum, giant opening. Just one or two more breaths. It's just the gesture of relax, the gesture of release behind the vocal apparatus and underneath the brain. All right. So now we have to help our head kind of return to that not so extended place. So I'm lying, so I'm actually just kind of scooping my head up to as if it were level with the ground. And I'll just make a turn onto one side and we'll press ourselves back to seated. If you're already seated, the journey was brief. And I want to do just one more round of Brahmari, just so you could feel if that gesture of release offered anything to your vocal impulse or your vocalization, the vocal sound. Okay. Actually, we should do this as one internalized Brahmari and one externalized or sounded Brahmari. Let's do it like that. So one internalized, non-sounded Brahmari. Your mind's ear connects to vocalizing. Let's also keep in mind, this is so super cool and just kind of something I'm exploring a little bit, is how so much of our vocalizations when we're super young and small gets wired to our ears as part of our vestibular, our echolocation. We learn our environment somewhat through sounding and then receiving those impressions back, right? We all know if we've gone into a cavernous place or a really small place, our vocalizing gives us some orientation. So now here's one vocalized or sounded Brahmari. Let's set our right leg out in front, our left leg bent, kind of brought in near our groin. Inhale, reach the arms out to the side, turning the chest same direction as my inner right leg. I'm just trying to draw with my hands to make it evident that my torso is facing the same way as my inner leg, the long edge of my mat. And then exhaling, going to shift to the right, setting that right hand down, and I'm working this like a grounded triangle. So just reach my left arm up. Now you can keep your head aligned with your sternum and your spine. So that might be just feel very supportive. You can also relax the weight of the head down, if that gives you some more sense and sensitivity for the left side of the vocal structure, the left side of the skull, the left side of the shoulder. So I have a working hypothesis, and you can help me test this and play with this, that just as our vocal and our ear, our physical vocal, our physical ear, get hardwired together as part of our vestibular, our echolocation, our environmental learning, I have the wonder, the belief, and the hypothesis that our internal voice can have some connection to our internal, our mind's ear, that offers up a lot of internal echolocation, meaning the subconscious, the unconscious, the vibrant, the transparent areas. So as a kind of an internal, almost like a sonogram, we can play that breath in and throughout the body to discover, oh, this is really open and available. Here, it's a very curiously uninvestigated area. So using the Ujjayi breath as a form of sound discovery could be a fun way to go. Inhaling, let's lower the left arm down behind the back, and now reach for whatever clothing or thigh part is grabbable. I'm lifting the left elbow backward in the direction of my back. There's a wall behind me. I'm saying lifting to give you the impression that it's lifting away from my torso and in the direction of the wall behind me. And release the left hand. Inhale, come upright. Stand your left foot firm to the ground. And we can do this one of a couple of ways. When we do this Mariachasana, often we have our left foot point in the same direction as our right leg. But I'm just offering that we can open up the footing so that when we take the left arm around the left leg, you might just like exploring having this opening between your feet, this opening between your legs. Okay? So, what am I doing? I'm staggering my feet. So this is the non-traditional Mariachasana. I'm interlacing my hands around my left shin, and I'm remaining upright. So, I could fold, I could stay upright. The interest to me is just the feeling of breath as sound. Breath as voice. We don't need a vocal apparatus to have a voice, though we sure can use our vocalizations. Sometimes what's in our voice is wide openness. Sometimes what's in our voice are kind of younger sounds. It's almost like little mantras that carry the age of the mind. Sometimes the voice can feel quite resonant. And release. We're going to switch sides. So set the left leg out and draw the right leg in. Inhaling as I open my arms out, I'm turning my chest to face the long edge of my mat. So there's a little turning to the right. Exhale, I'll reach left, just like a triangle. Setting that left hand down, reaching the right arm up. So the ways that I'm treating this like triangle is I'm lengthening my trunk, hinging. That's very different action than just putting my hand down or rolling my shoulders and chest down. I'm just trying to elucidate that we can turn and broaden and open up this other area of great voice, which is the heart. So right, the brain is just a little bit above the vocal structure. The heart is informing the vocal, our voice from just beneath. So just by breathing into the right side, the collar, the shoulder, the neck, we can start to feel here the heart's contribution in the voice. You can start to feel what the heart contributes. There's qualities. One individual had relayed to me upon returning from they had a physical therapy appointment, as they were just trying to play and feel some positioning of, maybe they were working on a shoulder blade issue. They had said, just as I was kind of feeling around in my shoulder blade, I felt a huge well of rage. And I said, yeah, that sounds like shoulder, heart material indeed. That can certainly be something that we experience around the heart. And if we keep going, right, we go through the rage or the anger, I think we find that there's underneath that sadness. And I think if we go underneath that, right, sadness, we find there's great, great care. but it's using the senses and the emotionality and the voice of what's occurring to bring us in more deeply. So we'll take that right arm behind the back. Inhale, lower the right arm. Reach, grab on clothing or thigh. And when we release the right hand, inhale, come upright. And here we'll either work Mariachasana C or its variation. So if I were doing this traditionally, I would turn my navel, my right foot to point at my left. But I'm just showing you an alternate today because I can. So I've got my feet apart and I'm doing the interlock around the right shin. Because of this different foot positioning, I'm just playing upright. I'm just kind of lifting the chest and feeling into the right side ribs and shoulder blade area. Good. You can just start to play and feel what's the nature, the quality of voice, breath, all around the right side of the heart. So I'm using all of those parts of Brahmari that lead up to the vocalizing, but I'm not vocalizing. I can still access my voice, whether I vocalize or not. And it's not just the generative part of voicing, it's the listening part. I'm listening deeply to the voice on the right side of the heart. Maybe it feels dry or trapped or snaggly or tangled. Maybe there's an achiness or a fatigue. And release. When we unwind, we'll do two forms of dolphin today. We'll do dolphin prelude and then we'll do dolphin. So first the dolphin prelude, because we'll remain on our elbows and our knees. Apply any padding that you like. Now, I'm doing a little setup. Once we get the elbows under the shoulders, clasp hands. And those hands will elevate off the ground several inches. Step the knees back from under your hips and apart, so they're wider than hips. So now as we shift the sit bones back, the elbows stationary, lengthening through both sides of the body. I think in the last couple of days this week, I think we've done some deep side work. It's my impression. So just breathing and feeling into these sides, hip to armpit. And we'll reset. Shifting the weight forward, resetting knees under hips. And I will set the forearms down for dolphin. On your exhale is when we'll move. Vocal structure free. And then feel the vocal structure. So not even just the neck general, feel the deeper parts of the spatial qualities of voice, throat area. Breathe into that area interior to the spine. Can you feel that gesture of release, relaxing bone and disc away from bone and disc? Ah. Can you breathe behind the vocal cords? Can you breathe into the vocal cords? Can you track where the base of the tongue is perceptible in your mouth and in your throat? The base of the tongue. Kind of go into the bottom jaw area and into the neck area. Can you feel the tone of the root of your tongue muscle? It's a muscular tone at the very root of your tongue. Does the tone of the muscle feel like it's revved and ready to say something? Does it feel flaccid, like it's given up on producing a voicing? Does it feel lively? Does it feel tense? Now let's walk the feet just 1 inch closer to the elbows for these remaining 5 breaths in dolphin. And let the strength and the activity of the legs lift the pelvis away from the vocal area. Use the arms, press. It's very different than just relaxing muscles. It's very different than just feeling the weight of one's head. And gently set the knees down. I want to show you this with a wall because I want to do it with a wall. You don't need to have a wall to do this. We do a standing alternate twist where we'll often grab the outer edge of our foot and we'll reach back. Let me show it to you facing you and then away from you. So I'm using a loop, the reason being so that my spine can remain over my pelvis. So I stay vertical, because if I grab my foot, I end up folding a little bit. Or I end up lifting my foot off the ground. So I'm going to use my strap. And then this is just facing you so we could, right? So I'm going to reach back. But now watch me, I'm going to face my wall. Just do the other side. Okay. And that's just so I can get a little extra push if I want to go into the twist a little bit more. All right. So let's set up. So I'm seated Dandasana, or right angle, legs straight out in front. I'm about 6 or 8 inches away from the wall. And whatever arm is furthest from the wall will contact or loop the foot that's closest to the wall. And then here's where we can peek at our screens to just determine if our spine is upright or if it's leaning forward. And just adjust your loop so that you can be seated tall. You can lean back, you can, right? Good. And now my left hand, I'm using it on the wall. You don't have to, but I am. Now engage the legs, quadriceps engage, pressing through the ball mounts of the feet. And I'm doing a pretty good amount of twist here. Now, as you're engaging this twist, which we'll do for just like a few more breaths, feel the quality of throat, the quality of voice. That's you can use your mind's ear to hear the quality of your voice as you're twisting. And inhaling, release. We'll unwind. We'll head over to the other side. So the hand that's furthest from the wall loops the foot closest to the wall and will be turning toward the wall. So I've given myself about 6 inches. And I'm both pulling on the strap and pushing on the wall. Again, I like having the sit bones down because it helps me track and prevent the motion of my sacrum and my pelvis going forward, backward, forward, backward. Good, engage the quads, press through the inner parts of the feet. And soften through the throat and the neck. So there's a lot of components to twist, no matter how subtle, that can really ring up through the deep respiratory and vocal structures in our neck. So you can feel that energetically, you can feel that structurally, you can feel that the twist isn't so much a tension, but almost this wavering vibration through the core of your twist and the core of your person. And release. Inhale, unwind. Good. Let's move to standing horse stance. And we'll work eagle. Inhale, the arms out to side. Exhale, smoothly cross left over right. Left elbow over right. And inhale, unwind. We'll just stay in the horse. Exhale, other side. That'd be right over left. And what I find myself doing, and I'm just kind of out loud processing with us, is I'm just allowing every pose, every occasion in a pose to be a way to reflect in and feel a quality of openness around the throat, but more specifically and more deeply the voice. I think we can do a lot for ourselves to more clearly define the physical voice as reflective but not wholly informative of what the deeper voice, the more energetic voice kind of bass, vibratory tone of expression, orientation, expression. Inhale and unwind. The arms will stand out of horse stance. turn the right foot forward, and we'll move into a warrior stance, just a basic warrior, as we'll set up for ostrich. Interlace the hands. Inhale to the front of heart and chest. Exhale, fold. Inhale, bring the hands down, release them near the sacrum, set the knee down, lunge. Place the hands on the back of the sacrum. You can use your knuckles or your forearms. I'm using my knuckles. And just keep adjusting your lunge so that your downward pressure feels totally fine in the back. And I'm drawing the elbows back. I'm lifting them away from my backside, pressing the knuckles down. And just furthering the bias through the front of the throat and the heart. And if we're listening to the voice of the chest, really the whole body has its voice, right? You can attune if it feels suppressed, if it feels, right? There's that whole emotional spectrum of voicing. There's that whole energetic spectrum of voicing. Okay, maybe it feels heavy, maybe it feels really spacious. There's all that uniqueness part of the spectrum. There's the warmth and the timbre and the kind of the texture and the pattern and the way that our deep internals are being reflected through that area. And then we'll release the hands. Inhale, set them down. Exhaling, chaturanga. Inhale, upward dog or cobra. Exhaling, downward dog. And keep rotating the arms and bend the elbows. Turbo dog. So it's tapping into the energy of the arms, which is heart energy, without grasping, without overly containing or gripping, right? So can you feel the energy of the arms without gripping with it? Let those elbows bend, let the arms, it's really fascinating to me how the energy of heart and shoulders and arms can be one of those, it's both revered and feared qualities, right? It's like we gravitate toward it, and we're also like, I don't want to feel that. Ostrich. Inhale the left foot forward. So warrior stance. Interlace. And exhale, hinge to the inside of your left thigh. Inhale, bring the hands down. Set the right knee down, lunge. We'll start with the arms reaching overhead. Again, I just want to sometimes this is a sketch pad for me too, is your Ujjayi breath is a sounded breath. So when we're engaging our Ujjayi, we're engaging, if we attune to it, we're engaging our voice. So we're hearing the voice of our body in these poses. We're hearing the voice of these poses through our body. Where's their strain? Where is their freedom? So start to pick up on there's a lot of these artifacts, these tones, these tensions, these textures, this spaciousness, this compactness. You can start to attune to the age of the mind of the one who is there, right? You might hear a very young version of yourself in some of these areas of the body. You may hear a very neglected part of self in some of these areas of our body and our pose. It's always there. We're just giving ourselves a moment to tune into it. It's a different kind of listening. And I will bring the hands to the sacrum. Please adjust in or out of this lunge so that your pressure down creates no stress in the back or the knee. Okay. I'm also lifting my elbows away from like that way. I'm lifting my elbows away from my backside. So I'm further biasing the front of chest, front of throat, front of heart. Just that continual, can I relax can I feel that gesture of release all around the throat? Some practitioners have a way of vocalizing the bodily areas, and there's some value in that. I think we get into a few different things when we listen to the voice pre-vocalization. We can listen to the impulse to voice or to not voice. We can even feel the withhold. We can feel the tendency to blurt. Inhale, hands to ground. Exhaling, chaturanga. Inhaling, upward dog. Exhale, downward dog. Inhale, right foot forward, interlock, warrior. So this is a really common area, and I'm just going to kind of bring up what the most common observations. This is often where both the vocal area collapses, this pose, and the solar plexus often gets collapsed. So as you're working your interlock warrior, or any version thereof, or did I say that right? Yes, interlock. Mm-hmm. How do I experience the front side of the throat, the front side of the solar plexus? Easy bird. Inhale, step the left foot next to the right foot. We'll stand on that left leg. I'm using my right arm, right shoulder, pushing back against that thigh, lifting the chest. Any patterns of strain, any tendency towards struggle, you'll feel in your neck or your throat. You'll feel hear it in your voice. You'll hear it. All right. Inhale, we'll set that right leg down, stepping back. And now we'll do any version of scissors that's appropriate for you. So I'm going to set the left knee down. So just reminder, scissors, right arm tucked underneath, right leg walks forward, left leg walks back. If you're not supporting weight on your hands, okay, you can do an arm tuck under the leg and relax the head nearer to the ground, like a head to ankle. You could also work this like a splits or a, all these options are providing scissors, head to ankle, or splits. It's just that we're working with the legs apart and a lengthened torso lowering. And then set the left foot down, the left knee down, and we'll walk the right foot over for pigeon. Lie the right leg down. So if you're accustomed to exploring just the release of musculature around the neck for like the quote unquote relaxed neck, I think we can go a lot deeper than that. So one way that we can start to deepen is to explore the space of the throat, the perception of space in the throat area. So maybe Maybe you experience the throat as just a solid grouping of structures. Maybe you experience that area as somewhat spacious, somewhat solid. And if you don't mind my anecdotes, I'll just share another kind of hardwiring that kind of I picked up from some really genius friends of mine, is they taught me how the voicing is deeply wired or can be rewired to the eyes, so that, and I kind of dislike that this is in the governmental milieu, but when you see something, that we can express what we see. When we see something, we say something, right? But they help me understand that upon experience, articulate. As soon as I see something in the body, perceive something, articulate. Oh, that's that. Oh, I feel disappointed. Oh, I notice you did that thing with your hands and your face. I want to ask you about that, right? So just being very, connecting the vocalizing to perception. Inhale, walk the hands back under the shoulders. Exhaling, downward dog. Interlock warrior. Inhale, whoa, the left foot forward. And I'm lifting the left arm under the left leg, right hand behind back. And I would even notice that the way that I would move into certain poses with what I thought were predictable experiential outcomes, I would hear a very familiar voice come on as like, I'll just make up an example here. Oh, this is going to be tight over here. But as I could issue that gesture of release through the vocal area, I noticed the pose change. Oh, that's not at all the experience of that posture, this place in my body. So this deeper voice, I believe, is a moment-to-moment orientation, a moment-to-moment orientation. Here's our easy bird. Inhale, step the right foot forward. We'll stand on the right foot, elevating the left foot. Now, if you're doing an alternate, there's the alternate where we can grab the foot. There you go. There you go. Good. And then I'll just ask, because I'm just anticipating, feel the neck. When I open up the vocal area, when I feel that gesture of release through the space of the throat, what happens in the foot and in the core and in the the inner leg. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right. So now we set that down, we'll do our version of scissors. We have lots of variety scissors. So left arm tuck under left thigh. I can do scissors, right? Or I can do a version of head to ankle or splits. So really just that we're practicing separating the legs out. So scissors is a fairly abdominal pose, so take that into consideration. And we'll set that right foot down. And we'll walk the left foot over for pigeon. To know the voice of a pose, to know the voice of the body, go into the space. You can go into the space of the body, you can go into the space of the throat. And keep offering that gesture, that's that gesture of open, release, open, release. This area is incredibly important to our metabolism. We've got the thyroid and the parathyroids are being nourished with the energy of this voice area. So it's part of how we assimilate, put things together, grow, build, and it's part of how we catabolize, take things apart, deconstruct. It's like the digestive processes of pulling apart, pulling things into their constituent parts and resorting, regrouping. Inhale, walk the hands under your shoulders. Exhaling, downward dog. All right. Step your feet forward, come to standing. I would love to do handstand. So, we will. You know the routine. You don't want to do handstand? I can't make you. But I'm going to go up for, a nice round number of 10 breaths. Nothing fancy. Just want to be on my hands and playing with those spiraling qualities of the legs and the shoulder blades. I've been enjoying a lot of kind of structural unwinding, so I'm putting Humpty Dumpty back together again too. There you go. Strain-free voice. What would that be like? I'm going to come up close so you can see this. I don't do this digit move in yoga a lot, but I do it for myself personally. So we do a lot of this kind of move where we spread the hands out, and we'll usually do that before we do handstands. But we don't do a lot of this, like moving these digits into compression or flexion. So I like to use the ground first so it's very, very light. Let's just pretend my arm is the ground so I can. So I'll almost just kind of like rumple, and then I'll just kind of compress, and then I'll just continue to rumple. So I'm creating quite a bit of squish. So you may feel the fluid, the blood, the fluid of your hands get really like plump in there. So I kind of rumple up to the first knuckle, and then I kind of rumple up to the second knuckle. And I'm using pressure, but on the ground, it's very light. So at first, it's just to move through the digits. And so one of the reasons for this is some of the work I'm doing is actually creating a little bit more bone development in my hands. So in order for my hands to stay kind of fluid, I'm doing a lot more with the other digits and knuckles. And so I'll just kind of bend over, and I put my fingernails on the ground, and I can kind of squeeze and release. I put my other knuckles on the ground, squeezing, releasing. And I just make it a very fluid motion, so I kind of try to do it fluid up close too. It's almost like I'm just kind of like rolling it up, rolling it down. Now your digits may be really fluid. You may not have these kind of bony deposits and development, but we don't get ourselves into this position a whole lot as a culture. Unless you're doing a very old style of like Okinawan karate or something. But there's a lot of wisdom in those old martial styles that have these techniques. It's actually preserving a lot of the digits fluidity and energy and usage. So again, it's not a big deal, but I was doing it, I was like, oh, this is a great wrist relief also. So it's just something I kind of do fluidly until I don't, so my wrists kind of, it's almost like I'm putting a tablecloth on the table. But that's it. Just something really simple. You can kind of squeeze into it, work into it, or just fluidly move through it. That's it. All right. We'll come back to, oh, that's right. I owe you a Shavasana. Lost track of my my time. All right. So take a rest position. And I would love to do one vocalized version of, one vocalized round of Brahmari, and then a non-vocalized round of Brahmari as we're resting. So you can hear resonance or structural shift, harmonics. You can feel the body as space. You can feel the area around your skin as bodily space. So we'll do one round of vocalized, sounded Brahmari. We'll do one round of unsounded Brahmari or internalized Brahmari. So it's the impulse to create sound without engaging the vocal structures. And then allowing any breathing technique to relax. It's still feeling the breath as your bodily voice. You can feel the expansiveness, the contractedness of breath. You can feel the fullness of your breath. You can feel the emptiness of your breath. When you're ready, bend knees. Turn to a side. And press up. Namaste.